I want to welcome everyone to the Committee of 100 holiday party. We have a very special short program that includes presentation of a Vision Award and remarks from Mayor Muriel Bowser. First thing we're going to do is award the Vision Award to Anne McCutcheon-Lewis. As you know, I'm sure everyone in this room knows, the Committee of 100 hosts an annual event to celebrate visionary people, plans, or projects that benefit the District of Columbia and that serve as models for how planning principles are as important today as they were during the L'Enfant and Macmillan Plan eras. This fall, the Board of Trustees solicited nominations and announced that there would be a single 2015 Vision Award to be presented at this holiday party. This is a unique circumstance, and our awardee is also in a class by herself. The Committee of 100 is thrilled to be honoring Anne Lewis with the 2015 Vision Award. Anne is a longtime member of the Committee of 100 and an eminent architect who has served with distinction on the Historic Preservation Review Board and the Old Georgetown Board. Anne's history promoting harmony between historic preservation and lively architecture is worthy of an award. But that is not why we selected Anne for the 2015 Vision Award. Anne long ago realized that our built environment must protect our natural environment. DC's proximity to Rock Creek Park, the Chesapeake Bay, and the Anacostia and Potomac rivers means that our city is attractive to a multitude of wildlife and conducive to a variety of habitats and nesting modes. Rather than conclude that wildlife is incompatible with urban development, as some have, Anne set out to promote peaceful coexistence and highlight the role that DC's wildlife plays in contributing to a healthy ecosystem that adds so much beauty to our city. Like all good planners, Anne identified a problem which was a huge gap in providing local animal rescue and rehabilitation, and then created a solution. In 2007, with Jim Monsma, Anne established City Wildlife, which opened a center in 2013. Since then, City Wildlife has treated more than 1,500 animals, representing more than 90 different species of birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. City Wildlife also promotes the enjoyment of native wildlife through education and outreach programs, and it offers incredible advice and information on its website on how to protect DC's wild places for animal habitats and prevent conflicts between urban living and wildlife patterns. The Committee of 100 became involved with Anne's effort this past year when we joined Lights Out, a campaign to bring attention to the benefit of turning off artificial lights in DC's tall buildings to prevent night migratory birds from flying into expanses of glass windows. Anne's campaign to preserve and promote urban wildlife is in many ways a natural extension of her talent for designing beautiful living habitats for us. She has the vision to understand that keeping our forests healthy and our city green within the context of urban development takes effort. Nature will do its part if we get out of the way, but we also need programs like City Wildlife to actively teach us how to be responsible stewards. It's an enormous pleasure to honor Anne McCutcheon-Lewis with the 2015 Committee of 100 Vision Award. Anne?
I'm not supposed to speak, but I can't help speaking a little bit. I want to thank Nancy and the committee for this incredible honor. This is, when Nancy called, I thought we were going to be having a conversation about the zoning rewrite or some preservation issue. And she said, "You've won the Vision Award," and I was utterly flabbergasted. I just couldn't believe it. I was at the dinner table, and the dog was slurping the food, and I thought, gosh, this is such an honor. So I really want to thank the committee for selecting me and for indirectly supporting the programs that City Wildlife maintains. Mayor Bowser, I want to thank you, because what you all may not know is that Mayor Bowser is extraordinary in the sense that she has small parties at her house for a variety of, I would call it, interest groups. And she had one some time ago for the environmental people, and it was one of the most wonderful network building events that we've been to. It just collected a whole bunch of people who had diverse interests but a similar point of view, just at her own personal home with cookies, and I think there were some fantastic brownies there, as I remember. I think I snitched one. So for all you've done, for the various interest groups in the city, thank you. And I also want to thank Mary Pat Rowan and Bobby Falls Zeitner and Beth Purcell for their support of City Wildlife and particularly Lights Out. As you may all know, back in the day, the Committee of 100 has done a lot of things that the Parks and Environment Committee would be applauding now. And if you look back, I was looking in some of the old files of what the committee has done, and they're really quite environmentally important, starting with we have no dam at Great Falls, we have no Three Sisters Bridge, we have no stadium parking on Kingman Island. All of these things you can thank the Committee of 100 for. So the environmental interest in this group has gone back decades, and we should all applaud it. So that is pretty much all I have to say, except thank you all so very, very much.
Hopefully we'll get a picture with Ann and the mayor after the mayor has a chance to say her remarks. We are really delighted that Mayor Bowser could join us this evening. We're anxious to hear her thoughts about her first year as our mayor, a year that included the unveiling of many of her initiatives and also brought some unexpected challenges. She's risen to conquer all of them, and we're, as I said, absolutely delighted she could join us, and we hope there'll be some time for a few questions at the end of her remarks, but please give a very warm welcome to Mayor Bowser.
Well, good evening, everybody, and I am so happy to be here. Let me join in congratulating Ann on a very deserved honor, and I'm happy to be here with so many friends from the Committee on 100. And I was asked just to talk about the first year and take some questions, so why don't I talk briefly and hear what you have to say. Let me first thank you. It's been my honor to serve as your mayor for the last 10 months. I do believe that we have gone all over the city and listened to people, talked to people about what's important, and have delivered on a very robust set of promises and have risen to the challenges that have come our way. In campaigning for this job, we spent almost 2 years in neighborhoods across Washington, D.C., talking to people about what was important. People, residents, various interests told me what they thought was important for DC is that we have a fresh start in our government so that we could focus on the things that were important to Washingtonians. They said we want to continue to grow and be a prosperous city, but we wanted to include more Washingtonians in that prosperity. They said that continuing robust education reform was important, making sure that we had world-class neighborhoods. And also that Washington, D.C. assumed its rightful place as a leader in this region, our nation, and all around the world. And that's the agenda that we've been focused on. So you'll hear us talking about having fresh energy and ideas. You'll hear us talking about making sure we have a pathway to the middle class for more Washingtonians. And you will, of course, hear us talk about our great city that you have so well focused on and helped to preserve, and how we're going to preserve it for generations to come. So I like to start this talk, as I have before, in telling people about the first 30 days of being mayor of Washington, D.C. So I was a Ward 4 council member. I had the privilege of working with many of you for 8 years on the council. I chaired the council's committee on economic development and have very much been involved in economic development and land use questions. I represented almost 80,000 people. But when you're a council member, and Jim will know this, you have a very particular focus and job, and yours is not the responsibility to make or execute all of the decisions. Well, I went from being the Ward 4 council member to having a pretty horrific incident happen in our city with an accident on the metro, a serious accident that scared us all, and a woman lost her life. And nobody would talk to the media except me, the new mayor. And so I went from being the ward council member to literally being followed around by news media for 7 straight days. What I learned in that situation was that we had the responsibility, and sometimes it will be the mayor and the mayor alone, to let the public know what's happening when you know what's happening, to hold all of the officials that can make some changes accountable, and to be transparent about that process. And so we got through that situation, but we've been focused on how we can make Metro safer and more reliable for the 10 months since. And I'm very glad that now we have a new general manager that's going to help us focus on that. The first day I was in office, guess what happened? It snowed. It snowed. It snowed 4 inches. And then it snowed every week after that for 9 weeks. And so again, new mayor, new team, getting to know everybody, what everybody's assumptions are about how to approach that, what the new mayor's assumptions are. And in that time, I learned that we didn't get it exactly right on the first day, but we sure did throughout the rest of the winter, and where we have been preparing for this coming winter every day since. One of the most fun things that happened during that first 5 or 6 weeks was I stood up for the residents of the District of Columbia and the people's law that they voted on to allow for adults to use marijuana in their homes. And then this Republican congressman tried to throw me in jail. So this all happened in the matter of literally weeks as mayor of the District of Columbia. I knew then, everybody was just kind of looking at me, are you okay? You like this job? I said, I love it. And I'm glad that I'm the one that's facing these challenges, because I feel very well prepared to do it, and I know that we're doing it for the right reasons. I also think that this first several months as mayor, we really spent a lot of time focused on our budget. And you know that any mayor will reflect her priorities for the city in the budget that's introduced. The first budget is especially important. We inherited a $192 million operating budget gap, which is not a huge gap in a budget of our size, but still one that we had to get over. So we closed that gap of $192 million. We didn't furlough any people. We made sure all of our employees got their cost of living increases and all that. But we were also able to invest in some pretty hefty priorities in that first budget. I promised that we would help preserve affordable housing in Washington, D.C. By making sure the Housing Production Trust Fund had $100 million each and every year. And we were able to do that. I also promised to change the way that we were addressing homelessness. One thing that I know Washingtonians of every stripe and background and every ward talked to me about in that 2-year campaign was making sure that this city did better by our most vulnerable residents, our families who need housing, who are homeless. So we attracted a great team, came up with a plan, took it to the Interagency Council on Homelessness, and we are committed to that plan to end homelessness in the District of Columbia. What seems very daunting is in fact solvable with the right investment and the right leadership and the support of the people of Washington. So we will meet our goals of ending veterans homelessness. We're very focused on closing DC General and creating smaller, more humane shelters throughout the city. And we're very focused on coming up with the long-term strategies to end homelessness in the District of Columbia. So we're very proud of that. And I think Nancy may have been referring to the unexpected challenges that big city mayors are seeing all over our country right now, and that is an increase in violent crime. And we did not go into this year expecting to see spikes in violent crime. But I think that we are putting every strategy and resource towards dealing with those issues. Some of them are police related, some of them are human services, and all of them relate to how we have more opportunities for people in the District of Columbia. Which brings me to one of the last points I want to make, and that is how we increase opportunity in Washington. I told people in that 2-year campaign that no mayor can make prices go down. Does anybody believe that? The mayor's going to come in and all the rents are going to get lower? Won't happen, right? Anybody think that? Well, it doesn't happen as long as you're a hot city. As long as people want to move here, businesses want to move here, and property is hotly demanded, we know what that does to housing prices. And we know that's why our city, over the last probably close to 2 decades, we have seen the demand in our city go up. So what the government has to do is stand in the breach where the government can. And that is making sure that whatever public land we use for development, that we have affordable housing. That's making sure that we make that constant investment in the Housing Production Trust Fund. And that's making sure that we're looking for opportunities for affordable housing in all 8 wards of the District of Columbia. But the other part of that equation is making sure that the residents of the District of Columbia can afford housing in the District of Columbia. And putting people to work, increasing skills, and putting people in real career path jobs has to be our focus. And that has been our focus in the Department of Employment Services and all the economic development projects that we do. We also have a commitment to really working hand in hand with the community. I think many of you know my background as starting out as an A&C commissioner and really being involved in my local community association and being on the council. So I really have a grassroots approach to how we get things done. And we also have an approach to wanting people to know more, not less, about what their government is doing. So I've hired an innovation team, a performance team, and to figure out how we can get more data out to communities so that you can help us make better decisions. One of those commitments we made early on was to involve citizens in the budget process. In all my years on the council, I was always a little confused at how the mayors handle the budget because they would talk to the agency directors, submit the budget to the council, and then ask the community to give feedback on the budget. But let me tell you, by that time, and Jim knows, that it's a little late. It's very little that changes from the time the mayor submits the budget to the council and the council approves the budget. The time to really make impact and a difference on that budget is really now. My agency directors right now are talking about what the budget for next year is going to be. And so we started our first set of budget engagement forums. We did 3 across the city. Some of you may have participated in the $100 exercise. And the $100 exercise was, here are 5 categories: housing, neighborhoods, public safety, public schools, transportation, in the environment. You have $100 budgeted among those 5 categories. And you might be surprised at some of the choices people made. And the thing that was very clear to me is what I know already, that budgeting and prioritizing is hard, even with $100 in the $100 exercise. So we're going to invite all of you to participate in that process with us as well. And we're also looking to coordinate an event that we would love your participation on. And that is talking about how we prepare Washington, D.C. for 800,000 people. So how we grow, and also how do we preserve the things that matter to us. And so we're going to need your input on that. And we're hopeful. I'll look at my staff, Eric Shaw and Rob Hawkins, to tell me when we're going to have that. But we hope to have it early in the new year. In that discussion as well, we'll also be soliciting feedback on what I know is important to you. And that's part of the government that is advisory or quasi-judicial that helps the Bowser administration and every mayor. And those are our boards and commissions. So we know that you have a lot of interest in zoning and BZA and historic preservation. Am I missing anything? Transportation, housing, okay. So let's start with the ones that relate to zoning and land use, because I most recently, and I want to thank Nancy, I asked some of the leadership from the committee to come in and talk to me about some of my nominees and your things that are important to you. So I look forward to having that broader discussion when we have our forum around preservation and growth. Getting feedback from you, and also your willingness to be helpful and give suggestions and provide recommendations, knowing that sometimes we will agree and sometimes we won't, but we will always be able to have an open dialogue. And as I expressed to Nancy, there was a little consternation with me about not moving as fast on some nominees or not soliciting input early enough. So let me say this, we'll fix whatever that is moving forward and make sure we are mindful of input. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one right here.
Yes.
Last spring, DDOT circulated sign regulations that are a radical departure from the city's past.
Okay.
You were very strong on sign regulation in 2010, and we really appreciated that. This would allow rooftop signs in commercial areas, the proliferation of these large digital billboards, which are creating so much headache for tenants and residents at the Gallery Place. And we would ask you to take a very hard look at these regulations before they come out again.
All right, I can certainly do that, and I think you've characterized my feeling about signs pretty well.
We felt that this was not had not been done on your watch.
Well, I will take a close look at it, I can assure you. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
My
Are you
pleasure.
going to be, I know you're working hard to close DC General
Yes.
Shelter.
Yes.
Are you going to be able to put smaller shelters in every ward in the city?
So we've been working very hard. We need 280 replacement units in order to close DC General. And if we are able to move our plan through the council in the early part of next year, we will be able to do it before the end of my first term. And so that is our plan. I believe very strongly that homelessness is not a downtown problem, a Ward 3 problem, a Ward 8 problem. It's a city's problem. And every part of the city should bear some responsibility in solving the problem of homelessness. So we will have facilities throughout the city. Yes, sir.
Realizing this was a problem that started before your term, but the rising crime really surprised everyone as with the city's economic health or a nice steady upswing, the same police chief, the same kind of consistent measures across the board. What do you think of the root problems, or some of the root problems of that upswing?
Well, I've been asked that question frequently. I've been asked it here. I've been asked on a national stage. Everybody, city mayors and police chiefs have asked it. So I think, if I could tell you that there was one problem, I would tell you that. People have speculated for any number of reasons what the problem is. I will tell you one focus that we have had, and that's on illegal guns and repeat violent offenders. We believe if we can have an impact on illegal guns and getting them out of homes, and we have a bill before the council that will give us a few more tools to do that, it will make a big impact. We also think that there have been repeat violent offenders that haven't been properly released or properly supervised, and they're committing more crimes. So I think for us, our focus is on how to combat those specific issues. Now, others have said, is it a problem with policing? We don't see that in the city so much because we see kind of an equal level of arrests and interactions with the police. So we always have to be mindful, though, of making sure our folks have the resources that they need. But there's a police solution, and then there's also a human services solution that we're equally focused on. But the last thing I'll say is this, is that when we look across the board at crime, and we look at neighborhoods across the city with crime, on almost every level it's flat. On almost every level. Where we have seen increase, it's been concentrated, and it's been with violent crime. And so that has our complete attention. So I can isolate almost 5 areas where all of the shooting and homicide have happened, and no place else. I can also isolate robbery, and robbery is the second category that has our complete attention. And we have some different strategies that we want to implement around that. So it is very frustrating. I know that people feel more fearful in their neighborhoods, and so the chief and I are very focused on getting ahead of it. Yes.
The Committee of 100 has traditionally been concerned about appointments to boards and commissions. One of the most important boards is the Historic Preservation Review Board, and unfortunately the archaeologist position has been vacant for over a year. $500,000 in federal funding is dependent upon filling that position and having a full complement of the board. So several positions have been expired since July. We just hope that you will undertake the appointment of those positions. We can't get anything from Mota. They just keep saying it's going to come for a year. But we hope you will address this problem.
Yes, and as I mentioned, we will. And I do want to have a kind of a broader discussion. I have, and I may have already gotten the committee's recommendations on those positions. You might imagine that there aren't a lot of archaeologists in the district who are up for the job. But we're looking, and we will continue to look, and it will have my attention. I expect that after our forum, that will be the time when I begin to make some decisions about those appointments.
Yes, thanks.
2 quick questions. In those prisons in which we have access to prisoners soon before their release, I wonder if there's some consideration to providing training programs, job training programs to them to give them a better chance to get jobs so that they will have some meaningful, gainful employment. That's one question. The other is, I wonder if you've given some consideration to using some of the many closed schools. I think probably there are some 30 perhaps still closed and not being used, for some at least temporary housing for people who need it.
No, we haven't considered that. That hasn't been something that has worked well for the city or for homeless people seeking shelter. previously. So what we know is that we can serve families or individuals who need emergency housing better in facilities that were actually set up for that, not kind of warehousing in a school building or an old hospital or anything like that. So we've had that experience in the district. We know it doesn't work, and we're better to follow a housing first model, and where we need emergency housing, have shelters that are created for that purpose. First part of your question about returning citizens and employment, and we actually are investigating how we can get our, most of our prisoners are federal prisoners, how we can get them back earlier into our jail so that we can service them better. This is, however, a conversation I've had with the Attorney General, so that from a national level, that we're better servicing federal prisoners. Yes.
I have a question for you. It's only been 8 years since you began the project to build the so-called 8th Street streetcar system.
Yes, probably longer, actually.
It's actually been 9 years, if you really want to look more carefully at it. It's been 9 years. What are your plans to complete that ill-planned and badly managed project?
Well, I know for sure it's been since Tony Williams, and that's longer than 9 years. I think that the first streetcar was purchased in 2005, something like that. And I don't say that with pride, that it's taken 4 mayors to get this thing going. What I said early on when I became mayor was that we have to right-size the project. I think we have $1 billion proposal on the books. My commitment was to stop at where we are on 8th Street and figure it out and make sure it works. With logical extensions to the east, going to the Benning Road Metro, and logical extensions to the west, to at least make sure we have connections to Union Station, K Street, and west beyond that. So that's where I am. So what's different from my predecessors is that I'm not talking about the $1 billion plan, I'm talking about 8th Street. I will tell you, I am standing here on December 2nd increasingly frustrated with the problems that we found. I asked the new DDOT director to commission a study with APTA to do a review of where we were with the streetcar. Around April, we got a list of about 18 to 20 things that had to change to make it operable. We've been working through that list. And my charge to them was I better be riding that thing this year. And I don't know that it's standing here right now that I'm going to be riding it this year. So we will have to make some real decisions about 8th Street if we don't have a feasible start date real soon.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna, did somebody else have one more
Hey, Margie.
question?
I'm curious about an evacuation plan for the District of Columbia. I have not seen one. I look one up, and what I see when I look one up for the District of Columbia is a backpack filled with water and supplies. That's what I see. It's now 14 years after 9/11, and there does not seem to be an evacuation plan in the city. And I think there are some steps that could be taken that would actually make one a lot more feasible. Give you for instance. If every office building, government, or private sector in this town had a plan, what kills evacuations in this city, besides fixed rail streetcars, but I won't even go there, is cars. I mean, if everybody just walked out of the city or biked out of the city, we wouldn't have a problem, but there's cars. So what you could do is make this a mandate for every office, public, private, nonprofit, ever. You get a plan for your building, and whoever drives, every 5 people that are going in the same direction, you give them 1 day of the week. And if there's a disaster that day of the week, that person takes all the other 5 people and drives out of the city. And it's easy. Would you rather die or save your car? I mean, would you rather die saving your car, or would you rather actually get driven out of the city?
Well, I just want to live. In any case, I want to live
but
with.
the point is, we need an evacuation plan.
Yes, and I don't think it's correct to say we don't have an evacuation plan. We have a pretty robust Homeland Security operation in the District of Columbia. It's well practiced.
Nobody knows it.
Well, we'll make sure people know it. So if that's the case, then we need to work harder at making sure people know what to do in the case of the emergency. I've actually fielded this question a few times over the last months, I should say last days since the Paris attacks. It's more top of mind for people of what to do. And I always say to people, regardless, we need an emergency plan. You need to know if it's a natural disaster, God forbid, a man-made disaster. Every family, every person needs a plan about how to get to their family. One thing that I think a lesson learned from 9/11, and we learned this with, we've unfortunately had to learn this with other incidents, is that people want to go home. Period. So the best plans, a shelter in place, stay where you are. People are going to figure out how to get home or how to get to their kids. And so you're right to figure out how do we move people, because people are going to want to move out of the city. The other thing that we learned is how to harden our telecommunications infrastructure, because if they can't, that's the other thing that fails in a evacuation scenario. People can't call, and when people can't call, then they want to go home even more. So working on all of those things is really critically important to what we do. How do we harden our telecommunications infrastructure? And that will help people not feel so urgent about leaving what probably is the safest place. So that's where we are. But I want to thank you. And let me lastly say, Nancy, if I could, I want to introduce Eugene Kinlow, who is known to most of you, I'm sure. I didn't know he was on the board. And Eugene has recently joined our administration, working as our federal and regional lead. And he will continue to work with the committee as well. Thank you very much.